She taught others how to love, how to trust, how to forgive. And all along, she was cheating on me for years, while making me believe it was all my fault. Her name is Claire. We were married for 7 years. No kids, no drama until there was. She wasn't famous when we met. I supported her career. I handled everything at home while she built her name. I thought we were solid. I started noticing changes about a year ago. She stopped touching me like she used to. Less eye contact. No more little gestures. She started locking her phone. Said it was about client confidentiality. Fine. But then she started traveling more. Weekend retreats, speaking gigs. I asked to come. She said it wasn't necessary. Something felt off. Her energy was different. She spoke less, avoided looking at me when she came home. I caught her smiling at her phone in ways she hadn't smiled at me in months. I told myself it was nothing. I didn't want to be that jealous guy. One Tuesday afternoon, I came home early. Left my charger, had a short break. Her car was in the driveway. I walked in. She was on her laptop, earbuds in, smiling, laughing. I hadn't seen her look like that in a long time. I didn't say a word, just watched. She tilted her head, twirled her hair, bit her lip. I knew that look. Then she said, "You make me feel like no one else ever has." I turned around and walked out. I didn't sleep that night. My brain tried to rationalize it. Roleplay? Scripted content? But my body knew. My chest was hollow. Next morning, she kissed me like normal. Poured my coffee. Like nothing happened. I stared at her, wondering how long she'd been living 2 lives. I started tracking things. Her events didn't match her calendar. Flight confirmations didn't match locations. She said she was in Arizona, but her airline history showed Florida. She was slipping. Not much, but enough. One night, while she slept, I grabbed her old phone. Said she used it for notes. I knew the passcode. I opened it. She wasn't cheating with one guy. There were at least 5. Some were recent. Some stretched back years. Some messages were romantic. Others were raw, intense. One called her his oxygen. Another begged her to leave me. She replied, "We're on different timelines." She wrote things I'd never heard from her. Not once. Whole sides of her that were never mine. The next morning, she hugged me. Said she had a busy day. Kissed my forehead. I nodded. Said nothing. I didn't see my wife anymore. I saw a stranger in her skin. I kept rereading her messages until my eyes burned. The more I scrolled, the worse it got. There were videos, voice notes, selfies she never sent me. I found entire conversations with men I didn't recognize. One lived in Portland, another in Charlotte. One guy sent her a plane ticket. She told him she needed a break from her controlling husband. That was me. The husband who did the grocery shopping, folded her laundry, made sure she had gas in her car before every trip. I stayed calm. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more. I needed proof she couldn't spin. So I started tracking everything. I synced her location to my phone using a feature she forgot to turn off. I logged into her email on her iPad. I checked timestamps on photos. Noticed when her outfits and posts didn't match the weather that day. She was careful. Too careful. But she didn't expect me to look. She told me she was going to a retreat in Santa Fe. I called the hotel. No reservation under her name. No retreat scheduled. I checked the airline. The ticket was to Seattle. She left on a Friday morning. I waited a few hours, then got in my car and drove to the airport. Sat in long-term parking. Watched the arrivals board. Waited. Around 2:30 p.m., I saw her. She came down the escalator with a man. Tall. Black jacket. Beard. They held hands. She leaned into him like she used to lean into me. He kissed her on the forehead. They got into a rental car. I followed at a distance. They checked into a hotel 20 minutes away. I sat in the lot and watched the lights come on in the room. My hands were shaking. My throat dry. I didn't cry. Not yet. I took pictures. Videos. License plate. Timestamps. I drove home without sleeping. She returned Sunday night. Walked in like nothing happened. Hugged me from behind. Said she missed me. Asked if I watered the plants. That night, I stared at the ceiling until the sun came up. I wasn't ready to leave. Not yet. I didn't want revenge. I wanted understanding. How did she live like this? How did she look me in the eye and lie so well? So I kept playing dumb. Smiled when she talked. Nodded through her stories. Let her kiss me. Let her think I knew nothing. She kept slipping. Calling me by the wrong pet name. Forgetting which retreat she was at. Once, she said she had sushi with a friend. I saw the charge. It was steak. For 2. I started documenting everything. Made a folder. Printed screenshots. I wasn't building a case for divorce. I was building a case for myself. Proof that I wasn't crazy. The moment that broke me wasn't catching her. It was hearing her speak to him. I used a burner phone. Messaged one of the numbers I found. Posed as a brand looking to collaborate with Claire. Asked for a good time to talk. He gave me a window. I called. He answered. I stayed silent. Listened. He called her baby. Said he missed her. Asked if I was still in the picture. She laughed. Said I was clueless. Said I was a good guy, just boring. That was the word. Boring. After everything I gave. Everything I held together. Everything I sacrificed. I was just boring. I hung up. My legs went numb. That was when the sadness stopped. That was when the anger started. She came home from yoga that Monday like nothing had changed. Kissed me on the cheek. Asked if I wanted green tea. Talked about her class, the instructor, the new playlist. I listened, nodded, said nothing. I knew she was lying. Every word she said was fake. And somehow she made it sound real. I opened Instagram later that night and saw her post. A slow-motion video of her standing barefoot in a field, arms stretched to the sky, with text that read, "Healing starts with telling yourself the truth." Thousands of likes. Comments full of women saying, "You inspire me." One said, "You saved my marriage." I closed the app and sat in silence for 10 minutes. I wasn't angry in that moment. I was stunned. Shocked that someone could lie so well, so completely, and be praised for it. She was careful around me now. Aware of my eyes. My energy. She made more of an effort. Cooked dinner. Left notes. Asked if I was okay. Like she knew something shifted but couldn't figure out what. I gave her nothing. No clues. No tells. But I couldn't fake sleep anymore. Couldn't eat right. My stomach turned every time she touched me. She'd lean in to kiss me and I'd flinch just a little. Enough for her to notice. "Is everything okay?" she asked one night. "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." She stared at me for a few seconds. Nodded. Went back to her emails. That weekend, she flew to San Diego for a women's conference. I knew she wasn't speaking. I knew she wasn't attending. The website had no listing. No event. I stayed behind and watched her location move. She landed in LA, then drove inland. I saw the hotel name. I booked a flight the next morning. She was staying in a cabin-style Airbnb about an hour outside the city. I drove there, parked down the street, waited until nightfall. I saw them through the window, eating dinner, drinking wine, laughing, her hand on his. Same man from the airport. She was wearing my favorite sweater, the one I bought her for our anniversary. She wore it with him. I went back to my rental, slept for 2 hours, flew home. She returned 2 days later, kissed me at the door, thanked me for understanding her schedule. She lied to my face, then went online the next day and posted a video about boundaries and communication. Comments flooded in. "You're what real love looks like." This healed something in me. "Your husband is lucky to have you." I laughed out loud. First time in weeks. That night, I started writing everything down. Every trip, every lie, every name. I wasn't just documenting anymore. I was preparing. She came home from yoga that Monday like nothing had changed. Kissed me on the cheek. Asked if I wanted green tea. Talked about her class, the instructor, the new playlist. I listened, nodded, said nothing. I knew she was lying. Every word she said was fake. And somehow she made it sound real. I opened Instagram later that night and saw her post. A slow-motion video of her standing barefoot in a field, arms stretched to the sky, with text that read, "Healing starts with telling yourself the truth." Thousands of likes. Comments full of women saying, "You inspire me." One said, "You saved my marriage." I closed the app and sat in silence for 10 minutes. I wasn't angry in that moment. I was stunned. Shocked that someone could lie so well, so completely, and be praised for it. She was careful around me now. Aware of my eyes. My energy. She made more of an effort. Cooked dinner. Left notes. Asked if I was okay. Like she knew something shifted but couldn't figure out what. I gave her nothing. No clues. No tells. But I couldn't fake sleep anymore. Couldn't eat right. My stomach turned every time she touched me. She'd lean in to kiss me and I'd flinch just a little. Enough for her to notice. "Is everything okay?" she asked one night. "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." She stared at me for a few seconds. Nodded. Went back to her emails. That weekend, she flew to San Diego for a women's conference. I knew she wasn't speaking. I knew she wasn't attending. The website had no listing. No event. I stayed behind and watched her location move. She landed in LA, then drove inland. I saw the hotel name. I booked a flight the next morning. She was staying in a cabin-style Airbnb about an hour outside the city. I drove there, parked down the street, waited until nightfall. I saw them through the window, eating dinner, drinking wine, laughing, her hand on his. Same man from the airport. She was wearing my favorite sweater, the one I bought her for our anniversary. She wore it with him. I went back to my rental, slept for 2 hours, flew home. She returned 2 days later, kissed me at the door, thanked me for understanding her schedule. She lied to my face, then went online the next day and posted a video about boundaries and communication. Comments flooded in. You're what real love looks like. This healed something in me. Your husband is lucky to have you. I laughed out loud. First time in weeks. That night, I started writing everything down. Every trip, every lie, every name. I wasn't just documenting anymore. I was preparing. But the lies didn't stop. She said she was cutting back on travel, then flew to Austin last minute for a supposed interview. Her calendar showed a panel she was never on. I checked photos from the venue. She wasn't there. That same night, she called me from a hotel lobby. Said she was exhausted. Told me she wished I was there with her. I stared at the ceiling while she spoke. I knew exactly where she was. She posted another reel the next day, talking about self-reflection, trust, how we should never betray ourselves to keep someone else happy. She smiled through the whole thing. It made me feel sick. I wondered how long she could keep this going, how many lives she could live at once, how long before she forgot which version of herself she was pretending to be. I was done pretending. I wasn't going to confront her yet, but I was ready to push, to test her, to watch how quickly the truth cracked through the performance. I created the profile late at night. Different name. No photos of me. Just a good-looking stock image guy and a short bio that matched the kind of person she'd be into: emotional, confident, spiritual. Someone who'd say words like alignment and soul work and mean them. I followed her, liked a few posts, left a comment under one. Your energy is magnetic. Would love to connect. 2 hours later, she liked the comment, then followed me back. The next day, she'd met me. Said, appreciate your message. Are you on the path too? I felt something collapse inside me. I played along. Said I was a mindfulness coach based in Arizona. Said I loved her work. She replied fast. Engaged. Warm. Too warm. It didn't feel like a fan interaction. It felt like a spark. She asked what kind of practices I do. I said breath work, journaling, nature walks. She sent a photo. Not a nude. Just a photo of her smiling in a sweater. The one I saw her wear with the other guy. She said I had kind eyes. Said she felt an instant connection. Said she'd just gotten out of a complicated situation with someone who didn't understand her purpose. That was me. Her husband. The guy in the other room. I kept the act up for a week. We talked daily. Morning check-ins. Nighttime reflections. She opened up to me, as him, in a way she hadn't with me in years. She said she felt seen. Safe. Alive. I hated every second. And I couldn't stop. It was like watching her cheat on me in real time. Then I asked if she wanted to talk on the phone. She said yes. Sent her number. Same number I texted her on when we were planning dinner. She didn't even use a second line. I didn't call. I couldn't hear her voice pretending for someone else. It would have broken me. Instead, I logged out. Sat in the dark for hours. I thought I'd feel powerful, clever, in control. I didn't. I felt hollow, small, like I'd fallen into the same lie she was living. That week, she posted a video about loyalty. Said it was her most requested topic. Talked about commitment, self-worth, trust. Her voice was calm. Her eyes clear. She was lying. Effortlessly. And no one could tell. I started writing a script. Not for her. For me. If she ever turned this on me, if she tried to make me the villain, I'd have facts. Dates. Screenshots. Voice recordings. I wasn't crazy. I was observant. I was quiet. I was in pain. She asked me one night if I believed people could love two people at once. I asked, why? She said it came up in a book she was reading. I nodded. My throat was dry. My palms were sweating. She smiled and changed the subject. She always knew when to pivot, when to disarm me just enough. One evening, while we were eating, she looked up and said, I feel like you've been really present lately. I appreciate that. I almost laughed. I'd never been more absent emotionally. I was drifting above the table, watching this scene like a movie. I said, thanks. She left for another trip 2 days later. Claimed it was an overnight retreat near Palm Springs. I didn't follow. I didn't track. I didn't check the location. I already knew exactly what she was doing. And for the first time, I didn't need proof. She sat across from me, legs tucked under her, tea in both hands, like we were in some kind of peaceful movie scene. She looked at me and said, "I feel like I haven't been totally honest with you." I stayed silent. Let her speak. I don't know who I am anymore. I asked, "Are you unhappy?" She shook her head. "No. You're amazing. You've always been amazing. That's the problem. You're too good to me. Too calm. Too forgiving. Sometimes I feel like I can't breathe." There it was. "So I make you feel trapped by being kind to you?" She nodded. Looked guilty. Or like she was pretending to be. "I just need space." That night, she slept on the couch. Said she needed clarity. I lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling. I didn't feel angry. I felt insulted. My love made her uncomfortable. My stability was her cage. In the morning, she acted normal. Made coffee. Talked about nothing. Then dropped. "I think we should take a break." A break from what? From us. From marriage. Just time to think. She already had a bag packed. Like this talk wasn't a discussion. It was a script. She left that afternoon. I didn't ask where she was going. I already knew. That weekend, she posted a story about reclaiming your space and honoring your needs. Someone messaged me a screenshot. I didn't respond. I walked through the house like a stranger. Noticed how empty it felt and realized how long it had already been empty. Even before she left, she was gone. It hit me in the smallest details, how quiet the place was without the sound of her voice rehearsing Instagram lines. How the couch didn't smell like her perfume anymore. How my own home started to feel clean, sharp, peaceful. She texted me 2 days later, "I hope you know I still love you." I didn't reply. A week passed. Then 2. She didn't come back. But I wasn't spiraling. I was breathing for the first time. No pretending. No silence loaded with lies. No hollow kisses. Then she called. I almost didn't pick up. "Hey," she said. "I miss you." "What do you want, Claire?" She went quiet. I made a mistake. I thought I needed space, but what I needed was to feel something real again. And that's you. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her how real it felt watching her hold someone else's hand. But I didn't. I just said, "It's too late." She whispered, "Please." I hung up. She sent another message the next morning. Said she was journaling. Said she missed our routines. Said she finally realized what she lost. I didn't respond. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was trying to survive. Her friends started messaging me. "She's really hurting. You guys are meant to be." One of them even said, "Don't throw away something just because it cracked." They didn't know. They didn't see what I saw. They saw the posts. The tears. Not the lies. 2 days later, she came by to grab more clothes. She didn't tell me she was coming. Just walked in with her key. I was on the couch. She froze when she saw me. Her voice shook. "I wasn't expecting you here." I didn't move. Didn't blink. Just watched her. Like she was some old film playing back a scene I already knew the ending to. She picked up a few things. Tried to make small talk. I didn't answer. Before leaving, she paused at the door. "Do you hate me?" I thought for a long second. "No. I just don't believe in you anymore." She stood there like she was waiting for a different answer. One that would undo everything. I didn't give it to her. After she left, I sat in silence. The kind of silence that feels honest. Pure. The kind that doesn't need fixing. I realized I didn't just lose her. I lost the version of me that needed her. I didn't think I'd go deeper. I told myself I knew enough. But late one night, scrolling through our old shared iPad looking for a grocery list, I opened the wrong folder. Or the right one. Her backup messages were still synced. Hundreds of them. I told myself not to look. Then I looked. And what I found wasn't just cheating. It wasn't even betrayal in the usual sense. It was structure. Deliberate. Rehearsed. Documented. Like a manual. There were conversations with women I'd seen in her social media feed. Women she called friends, colleagues, sisters in healing. These weren't casual DMs. These were strategy sessions. They had names for things. Mirror loading, manipulating your partner by reflecting their vulnerabilities back at them. Soft guilt drip, feeding shame slowly, under the guise of love. One message said, "Men crave clarity. Give them fog. If he's too calm, provoke him. Then call him unstable." Another woman replied, "It works every time. My husband thinks I'm working through trauma. I'm actually just bored." Claire wrote, "I do this too. I manufacture tension so I feel alive. He handles it like a saint. Makes me feel worse. Makes me want to sabotage harder. Sabotage? Harder. I read that line 4 times. These women didn't see loyalty as love. They saw it as leverage. Predictability made their partners expendable. Emotional safety became dullness. And my wife, Claire, wasn't a passive participant. She was an architect. There were links to hidden Telegram chats, vaults with saved photos, voice messages, emotional breakdown templates. I found folders named scripts, confusion cycles, emergency exits. They shared language designed to distort phrases like, "I'm not pulling away, I'm rediscovering myself," and "I feel unsafe when you question me." It wasn't advice. It was armor. In one thread, Claire described how she once picked a fight over nothing just to avoid sex. Another time, she ignored 3 of my messages and then claimed I was overwhelming her with expectations. Screenshots attached. Liked. Applauded. Validated. And I started to realize she wasn't just dishonest. She was practicing. Running drills. Testing responses. Optimizing. That's why so many arguments with her felt scripted. Why her sadness seemed timed. Her silences weren't passive, they were tactics. Her empathy wasn't connection, it was calibration. One entry from her notes hit harder than anything else. It was from a journal app synced to her drive. She wrote, "I feel powerful when I lie and he doesn't notice. Not because I'm proud of it, but because I control what love means in this house." I had to get up and walk around the room. The worst pain wasn't from what she did, it was realizing that everything I thought was real between us had been rehearsed, revised, optimized for effect. She didn't just study emotions. She engineered them. And I wasn't her husband. I was her experiment. I stopped reading, but I couldn't unsee any of it. The warmth she gave me wasn't love. It was maintenance. Just enough to keep me predictable, steady, useful. The man she described in those chats wasn't me. It was a version of me she shaped. Not to love, but to measure against. She didn't cheat because something was missing. She cheated because I wasn't broken enough to fix. She vanished for a while. No posts, no stories, no calls. I thought it was over. That she'd finally gone quiet. But she didn't stay gone. 2 weeks later, her face showed up again. New profile, new name, same voice. She launched something called Inner Truth Rising. Rebranded herself as a survivor. Claimed she'd been manipulated by her own followers. Said she needed to heal publicly so others could learn. The first video was nearly 10 minutes of vague reflections. No apologies. No ownership. Just phrases like, "Sometimes we lose ourselves serving others, and pain teaches us how to transform." Comments were limited. Likes hidden. But the followers were coming back. Not in the same numbers, but enough to keep her floating. I didn't care about the followers. I cared about the lies. And how easily they evolved. She moved on like nothing happened, like the collapse was just a chapter she wrote for attention. She posted about boundaries the same week she emailed me again. Said she was moving to Colorado. That she'd be offline for a while. Wanted me to know she still loved me. That she hoped I could forgive her one day. I didn't reply. A month passed. Then I got a message from a mutual friend. Someone she hadn't talked to in years. He said, "Hey, I know this is random, but Claire's reaching out to everyone. Says she's making amends." I told him to block her. He said, "Already did." Turns out, she'd been DMing people she hadn't spoken to in a decade. Spinning a new narrative. In some versions, she was the victim. In others, I was emotionally unavailable. In some, we had an open relationship I couldn't handle. It didn't matter which story she told. The point was always the same. She was never the problem. But people weren't buying it anymore. The tone had changed. Comments were more cautious. Questions started showing up. Someone asked, "Weren't you exposed for coaching women to lie to their partners?" Another said, "Why did your last podcast disappear?" She ignored them. Kept posting. Her videos had a different tone now. Slower. Flatter. Like she was trying to imitate a version of herself that no longer existed. She used to radiate control. Now she looked like she was searching for lines she'd forgotten. Then came a live stream. It was meant to be a comeback. She titled it, "Owning Your Truth." But she looked pale, uncertain. I starting. Smile too wide. The chat moved slower than usual. The energy was off. Halfway through, she stopped. Just stared at the screen. Silent. Then ended the stream. I didn't celebrate. There was no vindication. Just observation. Like watching a fire burn itself out. She tried again 2 days later. Another post. A video. An email blast. She offered a new course, Reclaiming Your Voice After Pain. 0 enrollments the first week. She slashed the price. Still nothing. It was like watching someone scream in a room that no longer had walls. And still, she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Her identity was the performance. Without it, she didn't know who she was. Eventually, she went quiet again. The posts became quotes, then stock images, then nothing. I got one last email a week later. No subject, no body, just an attachment, a photo of us, years ago. We were laughing. Real smiles. Real light. Before it all turned scripted. I didn't open it. I deleted it. Not out of spite. Out of self-preservation. Because some stories don't need revisiting. It's strange, watching someone disappear while they're still alive. Claire didn't die. She didn't move across the world. She just dissolved. Slowly. Quietly. Like fog in sunlight. She lost her brand. The sponsors stopped replying. Her podcast vanished from the platforms. Speaking invites turned to silence. Even the women who once worshipped her distanced themselves. No explanations. Just less engagement, less support, less presence. And yet, she tried to hold on. Tried to revive what couldn't be saved. Posted recycled affirmations, tried new formats. One video had her crying barefaced, shaky voice. The comments weren't cruel, just indifferent. A few supportive ones. Mostly silence. Her name became a ghost. Algorithms moved past her. Collaborators ignored her. Even search results started burying her under newer voices, fresher faces. Ones that hadn't cracked. I didn't take joy in that. There was no victory. No satisfaction. Only confirmation. She had spent so long curating a version of herself that when it crumbled, there was nothing real underneath to stand in its place. And in the quiet that followed, something shifted in me. I no longer needed answers. I no longer asked what was wrong with me. I stopped needing closure. Because I saw it now, she hadn't just lied to me. She lied to herself. Every day. In every mirror. In every post. Until she forgot who she was without the lie. That was the worst part. She didn't just lose me. Or the followers. Or her career. She lost herself. But what surprised me most was how empty my anger had become. It was like keeping a fire alive without wood. I didn't need it anymore. Not because I forgave her. Because I outgrew it. There was a version of me that needed to prove he was right. That needed others to see what she really was. But that man doesn't live here anymore. I took the last few boxes she'd left behind, old journals, and used notebooks, a necklace I bought her that she never wore, and dropped them off at a donation center. I didn't look back when I left. I didn't write a message. I didn't keep a piece for myself. I also stopped following the ripple effects. I don't know what happened to her new project. I didn't watch her latest comeback video. I didn't open the last email she sent. Because some people don't deserve your attention. Not because they hurt you, but because they'll only keep trying to rewrite the story if you keep reading it. One day I ran into someone who used to know us both. They asked how Claire was doing. I shrugged. I don't really know. They nodded. She always seemed intense. That was the word. Intense. Too much and never enough at the same time. Like trying to hold smoke with both hands. And what about me? I was different now. Quieter. Sharper. Softer, maybe. Less reactive. More real. I didn't need anyone to understand what I went through. But if they asked, I'd tell them this. She didn't break me. She just helped me find the cracks I needed to seal. You don't really know who you are until you've sat in the aftermath of someone else's damage and realized it didn't define you. That was me. Alone in a quiet house. No messages to decode. No fake smiles to see through. No stomach-nodding conversations. Just silence. Real silence. The kind that doesn't hum with tension or brace for impact. The kind where you finally meet yourself again. For months, I'd been living in reaction. Bracing. Studying. Surviving. I thought if I could understand her better, I could fix it. I thought if I stayed strong enough, patient enough, calm enough, I could pull us back. But people who build illusions don't want to be saved. They want control, attention, narrative. So I stopped playing. And when I did, everything shifted. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Quietly. Gradually. Like someone finally turned down the noise in my brain. I started doing small things. Fixing the squeaky cabinet. Donating old clothes. Cooking dinner just for me. Not because I needed distraction, but because I wanted stillness. I went to a bookstore for the first time in years. No agenda. Just wandered. I found a paperback on mindfulness, flipped it open, read 2 paragraphs, and felt like I was reading my own thoughts written by someone else. I sat in coffee shops, walked through parks, slept better. Not all the time, but more than I had in years. I journaled, not to record pain, but to understand how it formed. I wrote about moments I'd overlooked. The little things that had been off years before the affair. I stopped blaming myself, but I also stopped pretending I'd been perfect. I had tolerated too much, stayed silent too long, confused peace with avoidance. One evening, I found an old video of us, Claire and me, dancing in the kitchen, laughing. She looked real in that moment. Or maybe I just wanted her to. I paused the screen, stared at her face, then mine, then both of us together. It didn't hurt. Not exactly. It just felt far away, like watching strangers with your memories. A few weeks later, I received a letter. Handwritten. No return address. It was from her. She said she was in therapy now, that she finally understood how deep her dishonesty ran. She said she didn't expect forgiveness, but she hoped I knew she never stopped loving me, that I had been the one real thing in her life. I read it twice, not out of nostalgia, out of curiosity. Then I burned it. Closure isn't something you get from the person who broke you. It's something you build inside yourself, one honest thought at a time. After that, I moved. Nothing dramatic. Just a few towns away. New walls. New furniture. I didn't want to start over. I wanted to start true. I didn't make announcements. I didn't post anything. I just changed. And the change stuck. Months passed. Seasons shifted. I saw my parents more. Caught up with old friends. I stopped saying, "I'm fine," and started saying the truth, even when it felt heavy. Especially then. Then one day, I met someone. Unexpected. Unplanned. She was kind. Quiet. Asked questions that didn't feel like tests. Listened in a way that didn't require performance. We walked through a flea market together and didn't talk about pain. We talked about plants. About music. About how good it feels to laugh when no one's watching. I didn't fall in love fast. I didn't try to. That wasn't the point. The point was this. She reminded me that not every new person is a threat. That not every conversation needs decoding. That sometimes you get to relax. To exist. To be met. That's when I knew I had finally come home. To myself. I don't need to hate Claire to be free of her. I don't need to track her anymore. I don't need to prove anything to her, or to the world, or even to the version of me that once begged for her attention. She was a mirror, but not the kind that shows you your face. The kind that distorts, that twists, that makes you question where the real outline begins. I've replaced that mirror with something better. Stillness. Truth. Boundaries that don't punish but protect. Silence that doesn't scare but soothes. If you're reading this and you've been through something similar, if you've loved someone who played roles instead of showing up, let me tell you something that took me far too long to learn. Their chaos isn't your measure. Their confusion isn't your burden. Their story doesn't have to be your identity. You can leave the play. You can walk off stage. You can write something real. Because the real faces, they're not in mirrors. They're in the quiet moments. The ones where no one's watching. The ones where you breathe and nothing hurts. And for the first time, you don't feel like a character. You feel like yourself. That's the ending I needed. And maybe, if you're lucky, it's the one you'll give yourself to. End.